Hello, and welcome to the OneClickFactory webinar. Today we're talking about how to stay secure and up-to-date on Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain Management without any hassle. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ignas, and I work together with OneClickFactory as Finance and Supply Chain Management, Research and Development Team Lead. And I'm responsible for new product development and new services development for partners and release to market strategies. So today I will be presenting you how to stay up to date and without any problems and errors on Dynamics 365 supply chain management. So first of all, the agenda that we have for today is a short introduction to OneClickFactory, who we are and what we do, just in case if somebody doesn't yet know us. And then we will be going into the webinar content, which will be the continuous updates from Microsoft, what potential risks do they hold, and how we can tackle those risks, essentially. Why is it important to test out all of these updates, and how does OneClickFactory offer and do the testing for these updates? Lastly, we will finish off with a Q&A session. So if you'll have any questions, you can just start typing them in the chat. I will try to address those as I kind of move through the content. But if I won't see a question, that's no problem. I will address it at the end. I will look at all of the questions and just address those. So if you'll have anything, just let me know, and I'll try to answer it. So that said, just a few slides about OneClickFactory, who we are. So OneClickFactory is a business software company. We offer services for Dynamics partners, and we offer services on the three main pillars, which is Finance and Supply Chain Management, Business Central, and .NET Power Platform and CRM. We offer services on upgrades, upgrading customer solutions to the newest versions, development, any new developments, fresh implementations, or ISV developments that partners need help with. We can provide technical services for those. We perform technology transformations, so transforming the partners and customers' business into the cloud solutions, and quality assurance and support. So quality assurance, we have quite a few services on assuring solutions qualities. And one of those we will be presenting today, how we tackle the Microsoft updates and their potential problems that can come up with those. We have quite a lot of partners working all around the world. If you need some help with any of these technical services, just let us know. There will be our contacts. So just get in touch with us. We will definitely reach out and help you with any of the potential technical issues that you might have and might need from OneClickFactory. Our Finance and Supply Chain Management department, it is a team of technical experts, a team of developers, technical consultants, and architects that are responsible for ensuring highest quality of customer solutions, ISV solutions, and any other Dynamics AX implementations. We offer expertise, we offer care and support for our partners, and we always do our knowledge sharing. So if you need help, if you need some input on the newest technical trends, just let us know, and we will get in touch and help you with any of your projects that might come up. And as I mentioned, we have quite a lot of good feedback from partners coming all around the world. We have performed many migrations from older AX versions to the new Dynamics 365 platform, to the transitions to the cloud, and we help transform partners' business into the cloud-ready services and cloud-ready solutions. So that said, this is just a little bit about OneClickFactory, who we are, so that you have an idea. If you haven't worked with us already, feel free to get in touch, and we will be gladly helping you out in your projects. So that said, let's start the content that we have for today. So the content main is about the hidden risks of Microsoft updates. So first of all, just some background. As you know, in Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain Management, we have continuous updates. Each customer that is live on Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain Management, they need to continuously update their system and install updates that are released from Microsoft. So we call these service updates, and we need to continuously service the environment. So installing the update, it's a pretty easy task to do. It doesn't require any technical effort for the actual installation. However, as you know, the update that needs to be installed, even though installing it might be very easy to do, it's very important to test the update out. Now, why is it important to test that continuous update? It is important because you are still changing the code. You're still changing the code base that Microsoft had with some new Microsoft code. So that means that if you have some modifications, some extensions built on top of the standard code, suddenly the standard code has changed. Microsoft has released maybe a fix, maybe a new feature, maybe a security update. Maybe they even deprecated some features that your modifications relied on. So suddenly, the customer that has installed this update, the solution might not work as it did prior to that previous update. So in order to tackle this problem, it is important, since you can't really know before the update is installed what code will be changed. You can only know after that update is installed what has changed, since you can compare the code before and after. So only after the update is installed, you can actually have a look what has changed. Therefore, the only way to avoid any potential risks is to test out these updates. Each update that you install, it has an effect in the system, and each update will have some changes. So it's important to dedicate the time for testing all of the modifications, all of the integrations, all of the ISVs that you have, and all of the main business processes that the customer is running, so that they work the same way, and the customer feels confident that they can install this update into the production environment, and none of the underlying functionality will change. So that is very, very important to do. And how to tackle that problem? Well, in general, you can simply do basic manual testing, right? You can employ key users, and ask them to go to the sandbox environment and test out that potential update. Run all of the processes, run the modifications testing, do any ISV testing, for example, and test if everything works as it did prior. So this manual testing, it kind of solves the issue. However, it is not efficient. As you know, this update is continuous. So that means that not only the users, they need to test out only one time, which would be, it would be just an inconvenience, but they actually need to perform testing for each of those updates. So let's say the customer is updating the environment 4 times a year, right? So 4 times a year, the customer needs to dedicate a testing team to test out all of their modifications. If it's a small customer, they might just spend a few days on it. But if it's a large customer that has a lot of modifications, that just means there's more areas that can break. That means more users needs to do the testing, and more accurate testing is needed, right? So you need a dedicated testing team. Also, it is done by humans. So humans are prone to errors, and they can say that they do proper testing, but you can't ensure that they do proper testing. You never know, right? Also, it's a tedious task. Let's be honest. We have these updates are coming in nonstop, and these updates they need to be tested out again and again and again. So let's say every few months you need to perform this. Testing. Therefore, the solution is automated testing. Automated testing. This is the recommended approach by Microsoft, and with automated testing, you can avoid a lot of these human errors, and you can build up your test library over time and run these tests that you would normally do manually automatically each testing cycle, each testing iteration. So the benefit of this is that first time you have lower recurring cost. Of course, there's an initial cost to build out the library, but since these updates are not going away after a year, they're not going away after 2 years. You will have these updates as long as dynamics stay relevant. So you will have lower costs in the long term, lower recurring costs. And over time, once the testing library is fully built out, you will have a very reliable test solution that you can just rerun and maintain. So it's less resource heavy. You just need some IT team involvement to maintain these tests and run these tests. Also, so the users will be happy, and over time they will become reliable, and they will trust these automated tests. In the beginning, yes, I understand. In the beginning, automated tests might seem, is it going to test out everything? Is it going to work? So it's problematic. But over time, they will start trusting it, and as the library expands of these automated tests, it will become much reliable and confident in those tests. So we have first question from Aldis, who asks that they have more than 60 one-box environments for development and testing, so quite a lot of boxes, to be honest. What is the best way and how to update all these VMs to a platform update? So that is a very good question, how to do an update for multiple VMs, right? So if you would have 5 or 6 VMs, you could simply, manually install an update to all of these. But once you have 60, it becomes tedious, right? It becomes a hassle. So what you can do is you can automate this by writing some PowerShell scripts. As you know, a platform update on a development machine, you can install it not only from Lifecycle Services, but you can install it from inside the virtual machine. So you can connect to it, and essentially you can download the update and then create a runbook and then run the update. So probably my recommendation for updating that would be to build a PowerShell script, which would first of all download all of the updates from Lifecycle Services into the virtual machine. So run a script like that. And another part of the script would simply create a runbook and execute the update command. So create this one script. And then the next part would be to run the script not from inside the machine, but make a connection to the virtual machine and run the script using outside terminals. So since these virtual machines are still Azure virtual machines and they don't have any secrets, behind them, so you can use the Azure command line in the portal Azure to run commands on these machines. So you would be able to run a script directly from Azure, and then it's just a matter of duplicating it for all of those machines. So this kind of involves some development, a little bit quality or automation, you would say, but you would be able to build a PowerShell script that downloads the update to the machine and then runs the update command, and then just run it throughout from outside of the portal Azure. So investigate it, spend some time for one of those machines, do a proof of concept, and then you'll save a lot of time over the next updates. So that would be my suggestion for this question. But it's a very good question. I've never seen 16 machines in one box, in one kind of in one project, let's say. Usually it's across multiple projects, but a very good question. Okay, moving ahead. So I mentioned automated testing. So automated testing, it does solves the tedious side, so that you kind of can build out your testing library, and then over time you can just run those tests and maintain those tests, right? The issue with automated testing is that it also requires effort and knowledge. So Microsoft has a tool, it's called the Regression Suite Automation Tool. That is the recommended approach from Microsoft to do these automated tests. I would, OneClickFactory also would promote this tool, as Microsoft is investing in it. And that would be the tool to go with these automated tests. The only issue is that you need knowledge on it. You need to spend some time in investigating how it works. You need to set it up, and you need to have everything in place. So it does require some initial investment, but it will end up in lower recurring cost. Another issue is that automating, manual tests can be a user knows what he wants to do, so he just goes to the system and he does it. For an automated test, you need to be very specific what the system needs to do, where does it need to click, what form do you need to open, what journal do you need to post, and so on. So you need to be very, very specific in building that test. So that means that the user test stories or test documents or testing scenarios, they need to be well documented and they need to be maintained. So a company, a customer needs to maintain their testing stories, testing cases, so that they could be added into that tool and then step by step maintained. So of course, we're looking at some also work that is needed to do, so that you will, because as we know, these test cases, they will probably have errors, they need fixing, they need new data as the data changes, there will be new ones, so they need to be documented. They need to be documented, they need to represent the proper scenario, the business story that takes place in the actual system. Also, not all tests can be automated, so some manual effort is still required. For example, integration testing, some of the interfaces you can't automate it. You actually need to send those messages. You need to look if you receive those messages, and you can use those messages and have a look at those logs. So that works. You might need manual effort on those also. In these automated testing stories, let's say you test out something and you see that it doesn't work, right? So what do? You still need to solve it, right? So if you need to solve it, you need to understand that, how do we solve it? So you need to investigate it. Since this is because of a code change, because of a Microsoft update, you need to have some development resources. You need to have a developer that will look into the issue. They will look, okay, so this code has changed. What will be the solution, right? So you need some developer technical resource that will look into the change if that test fails, right? So you need to solve it. Once that test fails, you investigate it. The developer identifies a possible solution for that, right? Then somebody still needs to develop it, right? You need to fix it. It's not like the update is going to change. The update is not going to change. The update is final. Only you can change your modification around it. So then you need a development resource that will actually solve that issue with that new solution, so that the customer, essentially, he doesn't feel a difference. We tested out with automated test. We investigated, we found an issue, and we solved it, right? The customer doesn't need to do anything. They just, they are notified that there was a change, they are notified that there was development, and they approve that development, right? So that is the story for the customer. But they don't need to find issues, they don't need to investigate, they don't need to dedicate resources for that issue, right? So all of these key factors, they need to be in place in order to have a successful automatic testing story. Otherwise, you will be missing some key parts. You might have the tests, but you might not have the development to solve those failed test cases. You might have the development, but then you need to actually have proper documents for the test cases that you need to be, you need to understand those, and you need to be able to build new test cases as the solution grows. So therefore, in order to solve all of these issues, OneClickFactory presents the solution maintenance service that aims to solve all of these potential issues that you have that I've just mentioned, right? So this service that we offer to the partners is essentially aimed to help out their customers in testing their solutions. So the partner can offer the service essentially to all of their customers, saying, okay, this is how we will tackle the updates that Microsoft is releasing. We have OneClickFactory who will perform all of the testing. They will do all of the investigation. They will do all of the fixing, and they will maintain the solution on the newest version. So they can take quality assurance to ensure that the customer is safe, right? That way, the customer can feel they don't need to dedicate resources every time they do updates. They also can rely on the partner. The partner will help them with this testing issue together with OneClickFactory on the side. So this automatic testing service, it essentially gives partners the opportunity to add to their portfolio a solution maintenance strategy, how to help out their customers on solving all of these potential issues that might rise when doing Microsoft updates. So we aim to reduce financial risk with this that the customer is holding when they install these updates. We aim to provide quality assurance that they know that the Microsoft update will not break their modifications, will not change their business processes, and will not make any crucial mistakes when they install those updates onto the production environment. And lastly, we take full responsibility for the customer's solutions quality so that the customer can feel safe, and we can provide tests, do the testing and any possible solving of any errors if there is need. So that said, now we will be moving into the actual service, and I will try to present you how does the service look like, give you some more details. How do we tackle this? How do we tackle this approach so that you can fully understand how well OneClickFactory tries to tackle it, and hopefully you will also be able to identify the strategies that you can offer to the customers. Before that, we would like to also give some engagement to you. So we are going to ask you a question. So under the polls section, there will be a new question that will appear in front of your screens. So please give your honest opinion. What do you think are the most common issues that you see in these update stories? It's very good. It's very fun to get some feedback from you guys, and we'll see what of these scenarios is most relatable to you, and we'll see what is the biggest issues that you guys see in the market today in related to this topic. So let's wait just a few more seconds to see what are the results for this, and then I will just briefly share it with you guys. So currently, we actually have a three-way tie for three scenarios. So that means that all of these three scenarios, they received the same amount of votes. So all of these are pretty reliable to you, which is, well, very good. That means we are all on the same page. And we see all of these as the most, well, crucial areas that need improvement and that need some areas on tackling those problems. So that said, let us, here we have the updated. So now the answer which has the most answers is users are not preferred to perform testing periodically, which I totally agree. Testing one time, it's everybody can do that. You can spend a few days test out the solution. But once you present and you can say that Microsoft is having these updates 8 times a year, right? Then suddenly you need to do the testing every iteration. So every few months, you need to do testing and testing and testing. And there is no ending to that, right? You can have that will never end. These updates, it's not like they're ending. There will be more and more of these updates. So that's why I think automated testing is the proper way to go in the future as a long-term solution. In the short term, yes, you can do testing for a year, maybe for 2 years. But at some point, people are going to get bored, right? It's tedious. Let's be honest. It's not something that is fun. It's not something that generates revenue for the customer. It's just testing existing functionality. Therefore, if somebody else can do it, why not? Why not? So that said, OneClickFactory aims to help out partners in this area so that we can take off some of the load from the partner side and offer our testing services here. So we aim to deliver this service in 3 main phases. The first phase is the assessment, looking into the current customer solution and understanding the testing needs. So this is looking into, understanding, and trying to figure out what are the current testing needs. The second phase is the enrollment to subscription. This is where we take one customer together with the partner, and we onboard that customer onto the maintenance subscription. So this involves a development or documentation works for all of the documents, for the business processes and the modifications that need to be tested. So if, for example, the customer doesn't have any documentations, they don't have any documents, they don't have any testing strategy, this is the step that will devise them a testing strategy, build out the actual tests, build out the testing scenarios that the tests will follow, and using the Microsoft tool, building out the automated testing library for this initial step, for this initial phase, right? So it's impossible to build out every single test in the beginning, and it's not needed. The testing library is supposed to grow over time. As the customer business grows, the testing library will also grow. And the last step is the maintenance, where this will allow customers to be continuously supported for each of the testing cycle. So essentially, when an update comes in, OneClickFactory together with the partner come in to install that update, and OneClickFactory takes the load off the customer side, and they perform all of the key testing, run all of the tests that were built in this step number 2, investigate any potential issues, and solve any potential problems. So this is the actual, testing delivery. But in order to deliver those tests, you need to have preparation, you need to have proper onboarding, and you need to have all of those tests already in place. So before we move ahead, we had also, I see a few questions. So all this mentioned about the automated updates to install into multiple machines. So you have 5 at a time that connects and executes the runbooks. So you use your own virtualization. I see, not Azure. Did you try using Azure? Did it not fit your needs. I would, I haven't tried it myself, but I would assume that you could use, Azure and then and then run it on that. But if you're using your own, then that's very similar. But only 5 at a time. I think you could. Why not scale it up? What about the ISV solution? How to make sure the ISV stays current? So that's a very good question. So this software and this service that we are mentioning, this doesn't only include customer solutions. This can include ISV solutions. It's just that I'm kind of presenting it from a customer perspective. ISV solutions, they have the same issues, right? ISVs, they need to stay current on all of the versions because the customers will be installing different versions of the ISVs, right? So you need to ensure that your ISV works on every Microsoft platform, on 30, on 31, 32, and so on. So therefore, each time a new Microsoft update comes in, you need to install that update on your testing sandbox, and you need to test out your ISV alongside the main Microsoft updates. Otherwise, there can be cases where the ISV does not work the same way, just like customer code cannot work the same way. ISVs also have the same issues. So ISVs, they need to also build the same testing stories. They need to build same testing scenario documents, and I would recommend to build out the testing library so that you don't need to do testing every single update, everything manually. It's impossible to do everything automatically, but having 80% of the test automated and let's say 20% manual, it will help and lower the testing needs dramatically. You won't need all of the testing engineers on the long side doing the manual tests. They can build out these automated tests, and they can run these tests every single update on each of the solution, on each of the version. So it is, yes, ISVs are, it's very important to do all of the testing on the ISV side also. So looking into the solution, how we approach this problem is, first of all, it's important to understand the testing needs. So that is done in this step number 1, called testing readiness assessment. It's a very long name, but in short, it is understanding the need for these tests. So each customer or each ISV solution, it is different, right? They run different processes, they have different modifications, they have different data, different forms, and everything is different. They can have different integrations. So testing is also unique for each solution. You can have the main business processes tests in place, like posting of journals, posting of invoices, and other areas, but you will still need to have the custom tailored tests. So where we start is we come in together with the partner. We come into either to the ISV or we come to the customer, and we ask, okay, could you elaborate? How do you test? How do you do tests today? Do you have a testing strategy? Do you have the documents in place? Do you have tests in place? Maybe you don't have anything like that. Maybe you're just starting out. Maybe you do have something like that. So we try to understand this environment. So that is called the initial discovery. We also look at all of the modifications that are built. So it's very important. The key thing that breaks are modifications and everything that is not standard. Microsoft will not release an update where they just, let's say, break a standard invoice posting if it's not custom, if it's not customized. What can break is the modifications or the ISV or the integrations that are built on top of the standard code. So we look at all of the modifications, all of the interfaces and ISVs, and we try to understand how these are used. So we scope out what initial tests would be needed to ensure that the processes work the same way for all of these key components. So we might say, okay, you have this ISV particular, this ISV, it's being used like this, like that. So the partner or the customer can demonstrate it. And then we can say, okay, so we propose a test here, we propose a test here, we propose a test here. Same goes with a modification. If you have a modification document, that's great. We can look at a document and then we can say, okay, you have this document, we propose 5 tests here, 1 test here, because this is the key area that might break. From that, we do the scoping. So how many tests for each of these areas, initial cost for that, and we can give out quotes for onboarding onto the testing service. So this is also how you can approach this. You need to first of all understand how these tests are being done, if they're being done. If not, then you need to build out a strategy for your customers so that they can align properly, and they can understand what is needed to test out. You will not be able to test out everything. It's just way too much work. It's important to highlight the critical areas that are needed to be tested out. So the crucial areas in the beginning, and then you can go to the moderate ones, to the medium, to the small ones, and so on. As the testing library grows, you will be able to cover pretty much all of the solution, but that will happen over time. In the beginning, building out full testing library, it's usually not the best idea. The best idea is to scale it out over time as these updates roll out. So this first step is just scoping, assessment, and understanding of potential work. The second one is the actual enrollment. So this enrollment, this is where you can, after you give out a quote, a scope of what test documents are needed, what automated tests are also needed. This is where you build out the artifacts. So you document out the customer stories, you document out business process, you document out the modifications, the use cases, the test cases. Once everything is documented, you can give them to the customer. You can say, okay, this is our documents, how we see that you are using all of the business processes. Maybe those are already in place. That's perfect. It's less work. Then all you need to do is you need to build out those automated tests based on those documents. So you won't be able, as I mentioned, to build out all of those tests automatically, but you will be able to do most of them. And from that, you can perform and make the testing lifecycle easier. So in this enrollment, this is a very, essentially a single step that involves in building out all of the testing scenarios and all of the testing needs, and building out all of the artifacts. So OneClickFactory prefers or promotes Microsoft innovation. So we promote the regression suite automation tool that is used, and we are using to build out these testing stories and testing artifacts for together with the partners for their customers. But you could also use other tools if you see fit. After you have the automated tests built out, the last step is essentially the actual running of those tests. So this is the most important one, of course, where you need to take care of those tests. It's important to know that automated tests, they're based on data. They're always based on data. So you need to input, for example, customer IDs, customer accounts. You need to input sales IDs, sales order accounts, and so on. All of the data, the inventory to be used, the quantities and everything, all of that is documented in those tests. So the maintenance of those tests, it is also a task that you need to take into consideration. Once you have a test, you run it once, you create a sales order, you post it, that's it. That sales ID is gone, that order is posted, right? You need to create another one. That means you need to use a new ID, and you need to input it in those tests. So all of that you need to take into consideration. And this last step is essentially maintaining those tests and running those tests. So next, essentially, you wait for the customer update that will come in, or the ISV update that will come in, and you run your full testing library on those tests that you have built out. So that's how OneClickFactory also does it. We have a full, we developed the full testing library in this second step. And in this third step, once the customer installs an update, we run all of those tests with the newest customer code, newest customer data, or newest ISV code, it doesn't matter. And we run all of the tests that we have agreed upon previously. We provide all of the results that the customer can see, which tests failed, which tests passed. And then if something failed, OneClickFactory is the first to investigate. So as I mentioned, the whole package is that OneClickFactory is a technical service provider. We have a team of developers that are eager to do development, and they can jump in and investigate any potential issues that come up with these changes of code, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a code change. It's not like something has changed in the data. It's based in the code. So on these failed test cases, we have a full team that investigates, finds all of these issues, and then with approval from the partner, we can fix those issues up and provide solutions. So this is the full kind of process that we do. We also provide recommendations, what can be improved, what can be changed. And if needed, we can also provide other services like updating the actual environment, updating the production environment, providing input on the new features that are being released, and investigating that the code is not going to break in alongside these new features. So all of that is on this ongoing solution maintenance, where we can provide proper support for these for the partner customers, and they can stay safe and secure with this newest updates that come in constantly, right? Because as I mentioned, they don't go away. We had another question. Do you know how can we determine what has changed after the service update? Yeah, so that is a very good question. There is no easy way to determine it. That is probably that's the biggest issue. If you could explicitly say what has changed, you would be able to, you don't need to test it out, right? You can immediately just say, okay, so this has changed, we can have a look at ours, and we can say that, okay, this, it has changed, right? So we just fix it up, let's say. But the sad part is that Microsoft doesn't have a full documentation on what is being changed. They will notify key features, high level. They will promote and say all of the hot fixes that are being installed, but which exact code is being changed, you will not know. So sadly, there is no one place where you can just go and you can say, okay, so this piece of code has changed. We have an extension on it. We need to change it, right? Sadly, that's not possible. The only way that you will see that is after you do the test. If that code has changed, the test will fail. The test will fail, and you will see the failed result, and you will be able to address it properly. That's why we need to do these tests. So it's very important, but it's a very good question. So lastly, with the solution maintenance service, OneClickFactory aims to help out all of the ISV solutions or customer solutions to be fully prepared for any updates and perform any maintenance tasks that is needed. We follow the path that Microsoft recommends, and we do and apply proper testing tools and testing knowledge on doing the tests, taking full ownership of the solution quality. That is the most key. Some of you, if you have worked OneClickFactory, we take all of the technical qualities and we try to we take full ownership of the technical side of the solution. We try to use all of the newest Microsoft tools that are relevant to ease up these tests, and we are we provide full clarity in what are we doing, what tests are being built out, what are the outcome of these tests, and the customer is always in the know. It's not like we will just start building tests without the customer's permissions or the partner's permissions. No. Everything will be done with the partner and the customer in the know. So that said, that is the key end of what I wanted to present to you about these potential issues that you should be aware of. And if you feel interested in looking up with this service, I would gladly recommend you looking into our documentation that we have. This is, of course, just a very short version of all of the documentation that we have. We have the full details, how we perform the service together with partners. You will find the descriptions in the handout section. So you have this webinar. We have a handout section here on the right side, and you can download our materials there. Also, you can go and find our information about the service in the OneClickFactory website. And if you feel eager, if you feel interested to try it out, just let us know. Just let us know. Write us at services@oneclickfactory.com. For a limited time, this first step, which is the kickoff and readiness assessment, this is free. So no cost for doing this discovery, scoping, and understanding for the testing needs. So we do it free of charge for a limited time. Yeah, if you're interested, then you can hook us up, and we can then talk about the next potential steps that we could do together to promote the customer better quality and to ensure that they understand the need for the testing. Because it's very important to stress, testing is very important. One day you might wake up and the system, after installing an untested update, it might not work the same, and then there can be big consequences. So it's important to do these tests, even though it might not be totally clear. Also, feel free to download our materials. So as I mentioned, these are in the handouts. You should be able to download those. If you have any issues with that, just let us know, and we will send it to you. Also, I think you will receive the recording for this. So if you don't receive that, also just let us know, and we will reach out. So if there are no more questions, then I thank you very much for joining. I'm hoping that this short introduction, short webinar on raising the awareness on the updates that come in helped you give some insights. Also, to give you some insights on how does OneClickFactory promote and offer these, tackling these updates, so that we can help you on solving these update issues. So that said, thank you all for joining, and until next time, it was a pleasure to be with you and talk with you.